We're back. Welcome to episode 42 of the Pit Box Podcast. I know it's been a little while. We have some things to take care of, but we're back again. Consider it another season. I'm here today. We got Gartrell and Mary. I know it's been a while since she's been here. How are you two feeling?
Feeling pretty good.
Never better.
Yeah, it's really nice to be back.
I know it's been a little while, but there shouldn't be too many interruptions this year. We're going to keep it going for you guys. I know you miss us.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Happy to talk about a bunch of different topics. We got some pretty some happenings that have gone down in the past year. And we're happy to share it with you guys.
So, just to give everybody a recap of what has happened over the past year or so, I had received my SCCA license from Skip Barber in 2024, as I'm sure you all remember. And with that, I actually did some SCCA races in 2025, as I'm sure you recall me mentioning last year. And of course, there's some more training in England, the usual. You're used to it. Don't worry, there's going to be some more of that. But the crew wanted to know about my experiences from last year, about what I learned, what would I improve on, and things of the such. So let's get into it. My first race was Watkins Glen, SCCA Spec Racer Ford. It was my first car racing weekend, and it was amazing. Watkins Glen is one of my favorite tracks, and what better than to spend the weekend up there driving and not sitting at work, standing at a computer all day. Of course, didn't necessarily get the results you would hope for, but honestly, my progression throughout the weekend was exactly what I wanted. I didn't hit anything, and I met some good people. So, all in all, it was a great weekend. And then I had a super long hiatus, and I came back in October to do another day at Thompson up in Connecticut, same class, SCCA. And that was an interesting experience because the day before, let's say the race is Saturday, race day is Saturday, the day before had like a 10, 11 hour work day at work, then had a 3 hour drive after. So I got to the hotel at like 1 o'clock in the morning, got a few hours of sleep, then woke up, went to the track. And the first time on track was a race. I'm sorry, was a track that I've never driven before, and it was a race. And it's also not in the sim, at least iRacing. At least the road course, the oval is there, but that doesn't really help. And it took a little bit, probably good half, 3/4 of that first race to shake off the cobwebs. And then suddenly I was like, hold up. I remember how to do this. I've been doing this. Let's get to it. And then, just watch the film. One of the guys that is on the team actually had won the championship for that club that was participating that weekend. And he was able to go through some footage with me, give me some tips. And then I was able to knock off a good amount of time for the second race. And yeah, overall, it was a good day. Again, way better than being on the couch or sitting at work.
A bad day at the track is better than a good day anywhere else, right?
Yeah, I'd probably want to ask you some questions about like just like your progression. So like obviously you started in karting. Now getting into like a spec Ford, like did you expect to be faster and did like than you were, or were you as fast as you expected to be coming from karting going into a car racing series? And then like what practical skills do you feel fed into now racing in the spec Ford?
So I probably was at the speed that I was hoping to be. It's so of course racing is funny. Sports is funny because you always are focused on both yourself and other people. And it's funny because outside of sports, it's like comparison is the thief of joy. But you're competing against other people, so you kind of have to compare yourself. And I think if I look at it from the perspective of just me, my own progression, and how I developed throughout the weekend, perfectly satisfied. Like no real complaints. Like I felt like I stepped up uh, the speed in a way that made sense for me. And I think when looking at it compared to the people I was racing against, they actually, like, the people within the team is telling me, hey, look, you're doing good. We can tell you know what you're doing. And if you keep at it, we're pretty sure like you definitely will be towards the front. But obviously, you know, not only have they been racing this class in particular, but a lot of them have been racing for about 20 years or so. So it's kind of hard to expect to be fully up to speed versus people who do this constantly when you don't get a chance to do it constantly. But when you look at yourself, it's all good. It's all positive. Like a lot of the people that I was racing against in the class, they actually own their own cars and they're at it, some of them every other week or at least on a monthly basis. Whereas compared to them, I just got off the couch, and it's fascinating to see where you can take it. But again, fully satisfied with how it went. And compared to karting, obviously I have a lot more races in a go kart compared to Spec Racer Ford or any car in general. And some of the same things apply in terms of wheel to wheel, but of course a kart drives completely different than a car, and especially in this case, the Spec Racer Ford.
So, what are some of the differences between the cart and the car, Steve?
So the kart is basically like the most agile thing you probably can drive outside of a mosquito or or like a Formula car. Obviously, like I've driven Formula Ford, and that was pretty damn good. Really agile in how it moved. But then also like the sense of speed in the go kart is extremely high because you're literally sitting like an inch or two off the ground, and just the overall dynamics of a kart is a bit different. So, for example, when cornering, right? Like in a kart, there's really three ways you can stop the cart or slow the cart down. You can hit the brakes, you can lift off the gas, or you can turn the wheel. So when you turn the wheel, because of the geometry of the chassis and the flexibility of it, it actually will dig a wheel into the ground, and that naturally will slow the cart down as it turns. So you don't actually have to use as much brakes as you may think. And I'm not saying you should go to RPM and try that. You could. If you hit something, it's not my fault. You're an adult. But in terms of like the carts that I'm driving, like my own personal cart, you can crank the steering on and that will slow the cart down. You can't just crank the steering on in a car. You're just going to spin the car out, or yeah, worse.
Well, Steve, I have a
Yep.
question for you about your weekend at Thompson in particular. So, a couple things. What were some of the things that you applied to learn the track without having driven it before? And what do you think you did differently after reviewing your data and video with your team to improve throughout the weekend?
So I just had to watch YouTube. It's like a whole lot of YouTube. The person who won the championship that was on my team, he actually posts his videos up. So someone else that I know who was participating was like, "Oh yeah, just watch his videos." Like, all right, cool. So I did that to get familiar with the track, and then I utilized a few other skills that I learned from like Izone, such as visualization. So I'm, of course, visualizing myself driving through the track to the best of my ability to get as comfortable as I can without having actually driven the track. And of course, once you actually get to the track, you know the lefts and the rights, but you don't necessarily know all of the intimate details of the track. And of course, you have to figure out your braking zones and all that on top of just getting reacclimated because I went from like June 1st to October without having actually driven the car. And of course, like I said, it could be rather stressful when your first time on track is a race, and you're like, oh boy, I'm really out here.
So what was going through your head during that first race?
Don't hit anything.
Always a good start.
Yeah. Don't get in people's way. Try to have some reference points. I was fortunate enough that somebody in one of the other classes actually knew that this was my first time at the track, and they gave me like a few reference laps, and then they gave me a point by. I wasn't even ready for the point by, but they gave me the point by, so I had to go, and that's in part how I started getting comfortable. Because of course, when you watch it on video, you know the rights and the lefts, but like I said, the actual scale of the track and the intimate details you're not so sure about. And then to answer the other question about how I picked up time in between the sessions, so I was able to compare the footage and my inputs to the driver that was helping me, the same one who won the championship, and then of course just had to mentally think about what did I feel I could improve on, what did I feel was going right, and just trying to relax a bit so that I can feel everything I need to feel.
It's all pretty good. I'm actually curious about something. So, karting from my well, let's take it a step back. So, for the people that don't know, the people might be coming into this and really have no experience in like racing or what it's like to even be on a track or in a go kart or any type of car really on track. Um, I'm assuming that karting was very much an individual sport, right? Would you agree with that statement?
Explain individual to me.
So, as an individual, when I say individual, I mean more like you get to the track, you have your own cart, you're setting up, you're preparing whatever you need to in order to be successful that weekend, right? And the other carters are doing the same. Now, my thought being, when you went into spec racing Ford, now you're part of a team, right? But you're a part of a team, I'm assuming, of other racers that want to be faster than you at the end of the day. So my question and is more, what were your expectations going from an individual sport where it's like you show up to the track, you're making sure that your cart is set up the way you want, you're focused on your specific like improvements that you want to work on that weekend or what you're trying to accomplish that weekend, to now a team effort, but a competitive team effort. It gives me the mindset of like almost being like in a Formula One team where like you're there for like a collective goal to race and to be faster than one another. But like, did you expect to be supported very much? Did you expect it to be less supportive? Did you expect to, like kind of like maybe be like stiffed by some of the drivers and not want to give you information as to how to get faster? Because at the end of the day, you're my competition, right? Like, why the hell would I want you to go faster? I want to beat you. So like being on the same team as people that you're rivals against, was it your expectation to come in with, I don't know, like explain that to us, like tell us the back.
For me, I approach it the same whether it's a kart race or spec racer race, or even if we go indoor karting. Obviously, I'm trying to win. I don't want to say by any means necessary, but by a lot of means necessary. So, in part, racing is funny because I experienced this when I started karting. When you first start, everybody is very helpful. The faster you get, the less they talk to you. Like, and I don't mean like talk to you as in have a conversation with you, just the less tips that they give you. So, for them, uh, and to also give further context, like when I'm karting, generally I am racing against people who are younger than me. So for those who don't know me, like I'm turning 30 this year, and a lot of the kids who are karting are in that fact kids. Like they're in high school or college, early 20s, and the mindset of a teenager is different than the 50 to 60-year-old I could be racing in spec racer Ford. So the kid thinks they're going to F1, and they are literally trying to win by any means necessary. No regrets. They don't care. They're going for it, right? Whereas the adult, I don't want to call people elder gentlemen and women, but the adult is approaching it differently. Like, for most of them, win or lose, it doesn't necessarily change their life, So there's less for them to lose by assisting you in your journey. And again, because I just started, everybody is really helpful. But once you start getting to the point of having podiums, then people will be a bit more restricted about the information that they will give out to you, at least for free. You might have to pay for it.
Well, isn't that where Izone comes in for you?
Absolutely.
Tell us about that.
Yep. So for me, iZone is always the reminder of how it's supposed to be done. So just to remind everybody, iZone is a training facility in the UK that is solely focused on racing. So they're located at Silverstone in the industrial park, and everything there is how do we make you a better driver, regardless of if you are a go-karter, club racer, or factory driver or F1 driver. Like, one of the guys that I've met there actually is a F1 reserve driver and a Formula E reserve driver. Then, of course, there's a few guys there who are actual endurance factory drivers. And then you have people like me who have dreams and just got off the couch and is trying to get better. You have the full spectrum. But with iZone, there's multiple facets that we focus on. So one thing would be the mental side of things, because let's be real, in every aspect of life, regardless of how good you are or how good you think you are, if your mental is in the wrong place, your chances of succeeding is just, a bit lower, unfortunately. So they always emphasize mindfulness. They emphasize the ability to get into your flow state, being in your peak performance state, so that you can deliver all of the skill that you have. Because you won't necessarily be on your A game literally every single time that you participate in whatever sport you're participating in. But if your B game is stronger than someone else's A game, you're still going to win. So that's one of the facets of it. And then, of course, we work on the actual skill of driving the car, fitness, nutrition, all of those things.
So, what do you do to get into your flow state?
So the first thing that I like to do is, once I actually get strapped into the car and to the grid, is to breathe, relax, and visualize myself racing the laps that I am about to do. And then I also have a few mantras that I have to remind me who I am and why I'm doing this. The goal is to be at a point where you're not over or understimulated. So, like, if you're understimulated, you may underdrive, and of course, then you're just leaving lap time on the table. And if you're way too hyper, then you're probably going to do something stupid or upset the car, or just make a move you really shouldn't be making. So you want to be right dead center with the optimal amount of arousal so that you can go out and perform. And then, besides the visualization and a few bits of positive thoughts and mantras, just go out and get it done. Because about time for me, when I get to the grid, all of the work has already been done. So now let's go out and have some fun.
So that was really insightful, like everything that goes through your head, and what you've learned a little bit this year. So I guess I just wanted to summarize for the viewers and ask a general question. What were your biggest takeaways from not only karting, spec forward, and iZone, but just like life, as a new racing driver? And what specific things are you looking to improve upon this year? Are there specific goals and metrics, skills that you're looking to develop? And how will that affect this year for you racing?
So for me, some of the goals I have this year is from like a skill perspective. I want to continue to improve my vision. And when I say vision, I don't mean like, oh, yeah, let me go eat carrots every day so I can see like Superman and all this stuff. But
Carrots are good though.
yeah, you should eat your
We
carrots.
like carrots.
I'm just saying like that's not what I mean, folks. But ultimately, it's like your vision dictates everything, and where you're looking in particular when it comes to the apex will determine absolutely everything that happens from like your breaking points to your corner exit. For me, I realize I'm somebody who has a early turn in, so I'm trying to move my vision just that little bit so I can turn in at the appropriate point and now make everything easy. Because sometimes when you turn in a little bit too early or even too late, you can upset the car. It'll feel like you're fighting the car. And then once you get it right, you're like, oh, it wasn't the car. It was me the whole time. So that's one thing that I am working on from a skill perspective. I think from a mental perspective, it's just always trying to remember to keep things in perspective and stay locked in, just stay focused. What was the other question?
I was just saying, I'm just curious, like, us- what skills you're planning on developing the most. So I guess like, tell us what other skills. But I had a separate question just listening to you talk about that. Like, how does one develop their vision? Right? Like, I'm assuming that it takes place maybe on the sim or on track. But is there any other practical way to help yourself? Like, say, like, oh, I'm maybe looking at too early at the apex too early. I need to be looking like just beyond it, so I'm turning in at that point and not here. Whatever you can share as to how that works.
Yep. So uh you can use the sim. If you were at Izone, they will put an eye tracker on you, and literally they can see where you are looking. Like no guessing. The glasses literally just show on the screen where you're looking, and it'll be like, hey, this is good, this is bad. Maybe you need to pick your eyes up earlier, or maybe you're just too locked in on this particular point. That's one way you could do it. um, when you're actually out and driving, you realize that the point of the apex that you're looking at will then determine like, did you go wide at corner exit, for example? Probably need to move the point. Um, do you actually have a lot more track left at corner exit? Just things like that. And then like other skills that I'm always trying to work on is of course braking. Just to me, that's where all the money is made right there. Once you get to the apex, most of the work is done. Like, just at that point, you're just applying the throttle and utilizing all the track. But that's where all the money is made on the brakes.
Steve, I have a question for you. Changing gears a little bit. So, a lot of what we see on social media about racing is not the whole story. So, I'm curious what in your racing journey so far has been what you expected and what has been a reality check for you.
I think what I have expected in some ways is the cost. So SCCA is obviously very cost effective in terms of getting the job done for what I'm doing, but beyond this level, it gets very expensive very quickly. And I think that's something that definitely I was prepared for. But then when you're actually spending the money and cutting the checks, you're like, ooh, ah, I could do this, but you want more? That's one thing. I think the part that I didn't quite understand until I got to this point was how the pros actually train, which is what you see at iZone. It's like you can do it too. It's just, do you have the resources and the time, which is the same thing, to make it happen. Like now that I've seen like, okay, if the best people on the planet is doing what I'm doing, then I'm doing the right thing. But I have to go sit at a desk for 10 hours. Meanwhile, they're on the sim getting coached, or they're in the gym. They're talking to sponsors. They're doing everything that it takes to make it happen. But you don't necessarily understand how they train until you see how they train, because it's not necessarily like that much on YouTube. Like, sure, the F1 teams will put up how their drivers are training in the off season. You see them working on their necks and things like that, which is fine, but you don't necessarily get to the nitty gritty details. They sometimes talk about their diet, but they're not necessarily explaining to you the true intricacies of how to stay that thin and be strong enough to drive the car. I think one of the other things that I have learned is the the pros, like the really elite that you think of. It's like the marginal differences that separates someone who's really good, a good driver, from a great driver. It's like, it's not as, the inputs aren't necessarily as drastic as you may think. But yeah, I think besides that, someone who has coached me through Skip Barber, they were like, "Hey, listen, just think about everything as problem solving. Don't think about it as Lewis Hamilton is, just purely naturally talented and more gifted than you. You can acquire a portion, if not a lot, of the skills that he has. But remember, he's been racing since, his whole life at this point. But you can too improve yourself with the growth mindset, but it's just problem solving. That's it.
Just identifying opportunities, it seems like, and I think that applies off the track as much as on. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. It's expensive. We all need some money.
Will one of your goals going into this year trying to be to try and obtain sponsorships, and what's that realm looking like for you? Have people approached you? Are you approaching companies?
So as of right now, I have not actually been approaching anybody. The plan for this year, 2026, is to continue to do some more SCCA racing, as well as potentially racing in England to do Formula Ford. Like, that is a goal of mine. I'm still working to see if it's feasible. I think it is, but you guys will definitely find out. um, I, it's hard to get corporations when you're doing club racing, but of course, the more I hang around, the more I meet wealthy people, and the wealthy people can also contribute to you getting to the next level. So I think in the meantime, I just need to continue to build my skill and continue to network with the right crowd. And then once I have probably a better foundation, or even better foundation, then we can go after the corporations.
Okay. Yeah, so Steve, what is specifically on your agenda for this year so far? What do you have on the calendar? What are you really excited about? And where do you see yourself at the end of the year?
So this year, at least for so far, uh, let's make an assumption that Formula Ford at Silverstone does happen. That would be in October, or even if I chose to do like Brands Hatch, I think that would be in the September timeframe. But obviously, that's the second half of the year, and then I would want to do Thompson again with SCCA in October, and I definitely am doing Watkins Glen in May with SCCA. It's just another club race, not the runoffs or anything, but it's a great time. That's something I'm really looking forward to. And by the end of the year, I would have hoped to have, of course, improved my skill, improved my network, and be 1 year closer to actually doing some high level racing, which is the whole point in all of this.
you think you'll do any endurance racing or any other racing outside of the club racing pathway?
I definitely would like to do something like WRL or something along those lines. Just need to make sure that the schedule and the budget line up.
What's it been like balancing uh, trying to go full time racing and a career?
So my aunt calls me Batman because during the day, like I work in finance, and so I'm at work like literally 10 hours a day, and then when you add in the commute, I'm out the house for like 12 hours a day. So then when I come home, either I'm working out or actually trying to be a human being. um, and I also do like my Izone videos at the end of the day. Every day they do a recording. It'll be a particular topic, and then there'll be some mindfulness and things. So always try and get that done at least by the end of the week. Watch all the videos and then get on the sim when I can.
If you don't mind sharing, what I'd like to hear more about the mindfulness aspect. What do you focus on during those sessions with yourself and with iZone, obviously helping you along?
Yep. So sorry about the doorbell, guys. Hopefully you won't hear it, but if you did, I'm sorry. Otherwise, just ignore that part. So for iZone, the main thing is getting you in your peak performance state and helping you get into flow. You get into flow when you have the right amount of skill and the right amount of challenge. Like if it's really too easy, you're probably not going to care. If it's extraordinarily difficult, you might just be like, this is too much, and then maybe you want to quit, or maybe you do want to keep going. Either or. So one of the things that we do obviously is meditating, like literally sitting there and meditating. Then besides that, they they are the ones that got me into the whole mindset of thinking about it in terms of your peak performance state and teaching you what to do if you're under your peak performance state and what to do when you're over your peak performance state. And then the mantras that they help you, well, they don't help you develop, but tell you to develop as well. And then, of course, like actually just teaching you what flow state is and doing their best to help you get there.
Do you think you've experienced flow state in the car yet, or in the cart even?
I think I have experienced it in the cart, but not in the car, because in the car I'm still learning how to optimize it. Like I don't have nearly as many days in the spec racer Ford as I do in a go-kart.
For sure, and it must be really interesting getting in the car that is not necessarily set up and dialed into your specific needs as a driver. So that must be a challenge in adaptability, I would think. No? I'd like to hear about that as well and what you do to adjust to a setup that may be less than ideal for your driving preferences.
Yeah, you definitely have to adapt. And of course, every single driver, doesn't matter what skill you're at, has a preference on how you want the car to handle. But for me, I'm thinking about, of course, before you even get to the setup, is am I maxing out the car? Am I maximizing the performance of the car as it is? Because then, even if you started making changes before you have peaked, then like the changes are worthless, you know? Uh, and besides that, I try to just remember to be adaptable. Use the skills that you have in your toolbox if the car is oversteering or if the car is understeering. Like you have a general idea of what to do. So rather than focus on the setup, just focus on your driving.
That's what it's all about, right? Just enjoying driving and getting to know the car.
That's why we're here. All right, folks. That will conclude for today's podcast. I hope you're happy that we're back because we're happy to be back too. And like I said, it won't be such a long hiatus again this year, but we have some things to take care of. We hope you're all well at home. We'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks. See you.
It's been real.